here. Now, the card that comes out, well, to be honest with you, there's a lot of cards. The same, similar to Aries that came out, and I accidentally did Aries first. But the Aries are gonna have their reading last. But since it's your birthday, you guys get your reading first. But just similar to Aries, they had a bunch of cards come out, but the very main card that they needed to know was the King of Cups. Well, not the King of Cups, but the card that came out at the top of a plethora of cards. So, but the card that you need to know, or the card that tells us what you need to know from this reading, is the King of Cups. Being more emotionally open, okay, or controlling one's emotions, and understanding when to control your emotions. That's what I'm kind of getting the sense of. Because when it's important to know when to control those things, but not to overly control them. Because I think, Taurus, you had a tendency, especially last year, before Uranus, well, definitely before and after Uranus went into your sign, there's been a lot of ups and downs regarding your emotions, and it's been hard to figure out when it's acceptable to burst out and be your emotional self, and then when not to. But then at the same time, I kind of get the sense for a lot of y'all, it's really when to bust out and be yourself, when to express those emotions, when to let people know, let people in, and be vulnerable. And when is being vulnerable a sign of strength and not weakness? It's always a sign of strength, in my opinion. It's never a sign of weakness. However, when it's, of course, when it is used in a way that disempowers you, and it's not necessarily the the appropriate time, like say for someone that's mourning or something like that. When you start bursting your emotions out in a very self-righteous way, and it's not really in the place of someone else's, then is it really a powerful moment for you and the other person, or is it disempowering and taking away from the situation? You know what I'm saying? So of course, right, understanding the balance and the need of when to express yourself. And you got Seven of Wands coming out of this, that's telling me that says a lot. Says a lot to me. Not taking shit, but mostly not allowing yourself to be, abused in a very emotional way. Because you guys may be ignoring your emotions or try to hold those things down, but there's some times where your emotions will help you stand up for yourself. So let's go ahead and see. All right. So what you guys need to know is King of Cups, rather. Why is the King of Cups coming up for this? Like, why do they need to know the King of Cups? Gosh, you guys got a lot of cards coming out, but you guys have two: the Ten of Cups, and the Ace of Wands. I have a new passion for for desired happiness for either a family. For some of you guys, maybe you guys want to start having kids. Maybe you guys want to have start rebuilding a family relationship. Sometimes it may not be a family relationship. Sometimes it is rekindling a flame with somebody that you already had a relationship with, right? Something that was at an end, right? Something that was like, okay, emotionally concluded in that moment. But there's also a refire of your hearts and emotions, okay? So being emotionally vulnerable like this is because there's something that's opened up in your life that requires you to be emotionally available, not shut down, okay? So, okay, all right, that's cool. Okay. Let's see what's going on in your love life specifically. Oh, well, let's see. Actually, why is the King of Cups? What are they trying to get from being the King of Cups? What are you guys trying to get from being the King of Cups? What will benefit from you guys being the King of Cups here? Two of Swords. Okay, like I was saying before, making the hard decision between being emotionally available and when not to be emotionally available, when to be logical and detached. Okay, why is the Two of Swords coming up though? Give us a little more information. What is the decision that they need to make? What decision is it that they need to feel like they need to make? Oh, I had a feeling that was going to come up. Yep. And the Five of Coins coming out like this. Dudes. Okay. Y'all need to figure out when it's appropriate to be emotional, when not to be emotional, when it comes to making a decision about what you need to be leaving behind that doesn't work for you. I think you guys have been struggling with something for a long time. Maybe it was building a relationship with somebody, or maybe it was that you guys have been struggling with a certain situation that hasn't been paying off. Meaning, like, it hasn't necessarily been giving you what you've been needing, right? It's recognizing what's serving you, what isn't. So that way you can start making the necessary steps to start building towards what does make you happy and what does give you something back. Because the Five of Pentacles, it's not a bad card. Sometimes it's like you need to struggle because there's a certain period in time or certain area in your life where there's nothing to do but struggle. And it's struggling isn't necessarily a bad thing. It builds us our strength. It thickens our skin. It improves the situation that was already in a pretty shitty place, right? And there's, like I said, that because of that, right? Because of what struggling does, it's not a bad thing. However, sometimes with situations, it just doesn't get better. And considering with the Eight of Cups be coming up before the Five of Coins, it tells me that you've been in a situation long enough to know something's not going to get better. So what steps do you need to take? The difficult decision that's coming up here has to do with making going in a direction that may not be ideal for everybody in the situation, but is ideal for you. And represents a struggle, and it does represent a struggle because this does have a lot to do with your happiness, what you want. You get what I'm saying? So it's hard because I think a lot of you guys attribute a lot of your, I guess, I don't want to say existence, but a lot of your, your moral code to consistency, stability. But I feel like that has been sacrificed. What you had to sacrifice was your emotional stability, emotional, well-being, what you want. A lot of that, that is just the biggest sacrifice. What you want, because I feel like for a lot of you guys, what's most important for you guys has been to make sure that everyone else is stable, everyone else is good. This is about you now. This is about where you can feel safe, where you can be emotionally vulnerable, who accepts you and who doesn't, and what areas need to be let go of, what areas need to be left behind in order for you to achieve that happiness. But also, I feel like it's actually to bring back your fire. Because some of you guys may have let that fire die. Because maybe you guys like, well, you know what? My responsibilities are way more important. Way more important than what makes me happy. And now you're in that conflict because you have something that's right in front of you that you want. And now you're kind of torn between two areas. Like, okay, this is what I want, but this is what I've been doing for a long time. Do I continue to struggle and continue to go down this path where I know I'm not going to be happy? Because obviously, no matter what you've done, it still has ended up a certain way. Or am I going to, put myself in the situation to get to where I want, but end up sacrificing what I've been holding down for some time now that has already been struggling to keep up? It's very weird that that's interesting to me, because, this reading already is giving me vibes of empowerment. Like, you guys are ready to start going after what it is that you want because you realize that other people are never going to appreciate what you want until you start doing it, right? I feel like a lot of you guys are like, okay, in order for me to be happy, I have to start going down that direction. I start to treat myself that I'm important. I have to treat myself like I treat everybody else. No longer allowing other people, okay, to dictate where your life is going to go. You have to start making that breakaway. You gotta start, no longer blurring the lines of emotional needs and responsibility and start separating the two, right? And which one is the most important to you? Right? That's the hard part. Now, I think a lot of this, I have a feeling here too that a lot of you guys are looking for a universal truth here. Like, which is the best option to go? Should I go for my heart or should I go for what I'm responsible for? Fortunately, because it's not unfortunate that you have to make this decision on your own. The problem that everybody has is that, the scarier option is usually the best option, but they always go for the safest option, which never gets them and never helps them go in the direction that they need to go. You have to start taking risks. You have to start doing things that make you uncomfortable for the temporary, but end up making you happy for the long term. And what does that mean? That means putting yourself first. That doesn't mean you become inconsiderate and selfish in the sense of not looking at what other people need, or not looking in the sense of stepping all over people's toes just to get what you want, but mostly consider yourself so you can be more considerate of others. Not this sense like I'm saying, I think you guys have always been very considerate. I think you guys have been overly considerate, but the problem here has to do with you not considering yourself, putting other people's needs first, and therefore just not being all around wholesome. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm going to go ahead and, how is this affecting your love life, y'all? How does this affect your love life? Oh, you got two cards with this again. The Six of Swords came up first, and then the Four of Swords. How is affecting your love life? How this King of Swords, King of Cups, is affecting your love life right now? Well, it's keeping you from moving on. I think you guys are stuck in a paradox. Like it's a disaster. Like it's a constant thing. It's a constant state of inactivity. I think you had a lot of time to think on it, the Four of Swords. But how this is affecting your love life here is not moving forward. Oh, well, excuse me, how you haven't been, how the focus, I think the focus for some of you guys that haven't been really looking at what you guys want, it hasn't been going nowhere. For those of you that have been, focusing on what you want, you're starting to be able to move forward. You're starting to see different horizons, right? You're starting to recognize that there are other things out there better than the situation that you've been putting up with. Whether this is abusive relationship, regarding with whoever, right? This could be with your current partner. This could be in regards to family, because the Ten of Cups is a family card too. So I don't know if you guys have been, having a really unhealthy relationships with family, and your obligation to, to meet those needs or meet that expectation of what your family put on you has no longer been it's not healthy for you. It's not making you feel good about yourself, right? And therefore it impacts your relationships. It either makes you leave them prematurely, or makes you, or you may feel like you move on, or you have to leave that behind because ultimately, that's not what your family wanted. But you hung up on that. You're hung up on whatever you left on because you weren't finished with it. Or maybe there's a certain area in which you do want to move forward in, but it's been hard to do it because, there's a lot to consider regarding what that will mean for you and people that you attribute to being in your family. You got a lot of fire, and this has to do with what makes you happy. With the people that truly want to support you and make you happy. I feel like the biggest thing is realizing who has your back, who truly is supporting you. And filtering out the network of support and the real network of support, and not just kind of taking anybody's face, taking anybody by their title. If that makes sense. Really seeing how they affect you emotionally and attributing to that towards, where you go or how you continue to entertain this person in your life, or entertain the people in your life, entertain the flow and the treatment and so forth. But most importantly, it's about putting yourself and your needs and your desires first, especially if you haven't been. Now, for some of you guys, because I'm trying to read this a different way here, because this story may not resonate with everybody. But for some of you guys, the reason why the King of Cups is coming up for you guys has to do with perhaps being more emotionally available for, partner. Or being more emotionally attuned to what you need. Or maybe this has to do with healing yourself from a situation that ended in the past and getting your fire back. Because perhaps you've been in a very subdued state for a long time. I mean, you've been numb. You've gotten yourself to a place where you've been numbed up. Because every time I see the King of Cups, I'm like, all right, is somebody letting the air flow or letting that river flow? And I was talking to a Taurus about what breaking means, what breaking someone, what that definition means, and how that happens in so many different ways. You heal by busting through the blockages that come up through the passage of your life, right? We always create little stoppers in our flow, or the flow of our chi, usually because that is what either society wants. That's how we were taught. That's what showed us to be more stable and more consistent and keep us from feeling pain. But that also keeps us from feeling passion. Sometimes those blocks keep us from feeling passion. Those blocks are not healthy boundaries that help us to create the burning fire that creates so much beautiful things. And you have that. You have the fire. But what is blocking that power? And what does breaking mean? Breaking doesn't have to be an aggressive standpoint. Being in a position of not making a decision or not taking action because you don't want to go through that period of breaking somebody, that's not really for you to decide. You have to make sure that what you're doing is healthy for you, and that's it. You can't think about someone else. You can't think about anyone else, because if you can't even think about what you need and think about your own desires, right? How are you in any position to be able to make sure or figure out what's best for someone else? right? So you have to make a decision, even if that does break the other person. And that break doesn't have to be aggressive as hell, right? That break can be graceful, it could be sweet, it could be gentle. But you have to show, but really breaking is, break, like I said to the Taurus that I'm referencing, is the river, is breaking the dam that keeps the river from flowing. What isn't making your river flow? What dam is stopping you from being able to achieve what you want? What things do you have to move on from? What things do you have to move on from that's put you in a state of of numbness? And it could be something that's difficult to express or difficult to to go through. Some of you guys, this has to do with moving on from something that did mean something really astronomical, a part of your life, and it's finding a new meaning. Because I think with the Six of Swords, in my opinion, it's finding a new meaning for life. It's finding a new meaning in who you are. It's no longer letting the past or the old way of living predict or to dictate what will be your drive, will be your force. It's truly now 100% on you. And that's the hard part, because you've always had to either fight with somebody or get to a certain place where you guys can get to some sort of understanding, but it would never happen. Something that was left unresolved, and it has to be left unresolved because that person either is, or that the people are unnegotiable. They can't, nothing, someone that can't be reasoned with, or they're not there to be able to come to that conclusion anymore. And that's the hard part, because if a lot of you guys have had people that have passed, because I know some Taurians and that have lost some people recently, it's going to be hard if you guys have some beef and you guys have never been able to reconcile that. But you have to figure out a way to reconcile that sort of indifference, so that way you can find the fire again, right? And that may be that you don't, come to a conclusion that you guys can stand up to level playing fields with. You may have to just accept that things have just wasn't the way that it could be, in the eyes that you had, and the eyes of success that you had at that time. But it doesn't infringe on the future successes that you have in the future, later on. It doesn't infringe on what you may want now for yourself, because the blockages that you had before are no longer there. And I'm not saying the person that you may have lost was a blockage. I'm saying that whatever you felt was, that you felt contributed to the blockage of being able to have a successful relationship with that person, will not be the blockage for the future relationships or the future areas in your life where you can have that success. The person was never necessarily the problem. The problem between you and the person was the problem. What was that issue? Identifying it, and sometimes it's big. The biggest thing about this reading is making peace, so that way you can heal and be able to move forward. It's so intricate, this reading. So let me get a little bit of information. Well, let me get the last card here. What is the overall outcome for the reading here? What is the overall outcome for Taurus in this reading, in regards to what they need to know? Three of Cups. Wow, the card of reunion, the card of fun and happiness. It's a small sample of happiness, but it's joy. I feel like, because these people are celebrating. This is a card of celebration. Now, for those of you that have lost someone, or this has something to do with a situation coming to an end with the Ten of Cups, right? Celebrate the life that it had in a way that that encourages future how do I put this, like future growth, future success, right? The Three of Cups, the outcome doesn't have to necessarily mean that you celebrate the life of, or the journey that was before. But I feel like it's, the Three of Cups talks about, you connecting with people of like minds, connecting with people that are like very similar to you, that are becoming more awake to what they need and what they want, and being aware that they have the power to make those things happen. The King of Cups is passive, the most passive king out of all of them, but he still is avid about going for what makes him feel good, right? He'll always put himself in a position in which he feels the best. And I feel like with 3 cups coming up like this, I feel like you're going, connecting with people that are, that are similar to you will help you to figure out what your best decision is regarding either leaving something behind, like the 8 of Cups is saying, or, figuring out what you're no longer interested in putting up with. Figuring out through the situation that you've been through already, figuring out what is your tolerance level, figuring out what your new boundaries are, and you either start making progress in relationships that have been struggling for a while, and really, putting in either a college try, which I don't believe you guys haven't been, but like figuring out figuring out if something serves you and what doesn't, and start making progress in what areas that do benefit you and what do serve you. No longer putting effort in something that doesn't. Follow the moon. Okay, trust your intuition. That's the card that comes out. The King of Cups is very good with that too. He's very intuitive. Very intuitive. Not just no. And the reason why and how he's intuitive is by looking at his emotions and looking at what he wants and looking at how he feels in every moment, in every situation. He's on top of his emotions. He doesn't let them get the best of him, and he does not let them. He doesn't hold them back either. Is knowing the importance of of the flow, understanding the flow. Okay, and I feel like the moon is never. I would say this too, guys, because I think the biggest thing that you guys are gonna have to face right now for the next 8 years is that you're gonna be facing the moon a lot, and it's a really weird. Okay, sorry about that if you guys hear that in the background. What the hell is going on? But anyway, the moon, I know the Uranus is not the moon, but the Uranus is very similar to it in the sense of like you can never predict what's going to happen. But it doesn't mean that you can't create beautiful things from unexpected events. You can't be graceful in an unexpected event. That doesn't mean any of that. You can be all those things. You can do the best that you can. You can grow in astronomical ways. You could be successful. And you don't even, because you took advantage of a situation. Excuse me. You could be successful because you are prepared to handle unexpected things. By being more in tune with yourself. By being more in tune with your environment, by putting yourself in a situation that that no matter whatever comes, you can be prepared to handle it in the best way possible because you are in tune to your needs, to your spirituality, to that area that needs the most support. It needs the most patience and the most and the most care, which is your heart. The more you're compassionate with your emotions, and the less you start trying to push it into a box or let it explode in all kinds of different areas, the better the unknown seems to be. Because you're more in the focus on the present, and whatever happens in the present and happens in the now, you can, you'll be more confident in being able to handle versus an unstable area of emotional chaos, right? Because whatever you suppress, whatever you let go crazy, how are you going to know how to handle it properly if you don't focus on centering yourself and focus on what your true needs are versus just kind of saying, no, this emotion isn't needed, or no, I have, or oh my God, this is important to me, this is something that I have to, kind of explode on. It's a balance of both.